forget you got to refresh that one page to see the chat. Welcome, everyone. This is the Toltec Discussions with Golden Eagle.
Oh, I've got the wrong room. I got to go down the hall.
There you go. You're going to stay right there.
Good one. Ding ding.
So let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know, you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. But there is something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is. But it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to the work. And that's why you're here. Because you know that this is a place for the work. So what is the work? It's the place where we strip away the illusion. It's the place where we learn to make a choice about the realities that we will manifest. The work will find us, and we will find the work when we are tired of the illusion. You're tired of the repetitive karmic cycle. And when the need for the truth outweighs the desire to be comfortable, you will suddenly and inexplainably be drawn and driven into the work. There are a lot of ways we find what's behind the illusion. Some are more effective than others. There are many places you could find people claiming to teach you the work. But they themselves don't know. But there are clues to help you decide who has real answers of substance and truth, and which teachers don't have that inner connection to the higher planes, and they are not bringing through what I call the juice, the true substance of the universe. Anyone who tries to tell you that your spiritual path should keep you comfortable that's your first clue. That's not a place where you will find the true work. If you find yourself running every time you start to feel uncomfortable and you haven't yet developed the discipline to just stand there and absorb the discomfort and let it transform you, that instead you flee. You are in fact running from the work, the truth. Does anyone here own a car, ever driven a car?
I am.
Okay. Some of you have. An automobile.
Yeah, the Maria said that the audio was a little bit low. Is there any way I can bring that up?
Scoot the table forward because it's already up all the way, I believe.
Do you need help doing that? Who's got one on? Is there a mic that can be on the table? Is it the
I'm sorry, what?
Can the mic be on the table?
No, the mic is in the computer.
Oh, I see.
I don't have, that other one broke and I haven't had a chance to replace it.
Okay.
Maria, let us know in the next few minutes if that's any better. If not, I'll have to go see if I can tweak settings.
Maybe it's the fan.
You could try turning the fan off too.
Can it just be turned down?
It's on the lowest setting. Go ahead and turn that off. That bottom button, just press it. Yeah.
Should I put the mic back?
The shaman mime.
Deep humor.
Should I turn the mic up, should I put it back to where it was?
No, leave it there. If you figured out how to do that, that's great. In an automobile, it's designed that parts will wear out. Anytime you have two moving parts rubbing on each other, no matter how well you lubricate them, things wear out. So bearings will periodically need lubricated and eventually replaced. Brakes wear out, and so on and so on. And you know this is starting to happen when your car, your transportation machine, starts to exude strange fumes and odors and make strange noises and groans and aches. And you know, okay, I better go take care of this if we want this vehicle to continue operating. If you're smart, you don't ignore those little red warning lights on the dashboard. You don't reach into the glove box and pull out a piece of electrical tape and cover up the warning light because it's annoying.
You don't?
I don't. Whatever you do, that's between you and your car. Now, we have a physical body. We are not the physical body. We have one that we use. And parts wear out. It starts to make strange noises, creaks and pops, and you hear groans. Oi! Who said that? Strange fumes come out the exhaust when it's not working right. Not unlike your automobile. And if you're smart and you realize that this physical body we're driving around is the only one we get in this incarnation, we learn to take care of it. Running out of oxygen, we open a valve and we allow more oxygen to flow into our oxygen transformation receptacles. We're running out of energy. We say, well, maybe we better put more fuel in the tank. And so we take some proteins, carbs, and fats and throw them down into our combustion chamber. Because our parts were out and they have to be replaced, but we don't usually, historically, we never worried about going out and replacing whole parts at a time like a knee. We do now because $25,000 to $50,000 to replace a knee is more lucrative for the doctors than, $25 a month to tell you to take the nutrients you need to rebuild cartilage in your joints. But we do, if we listen to our bodies and we do what's right for them, we replace our bodies all the time, one molecule at a time. That one was damaged, it's thrown away and recycled, and we make a new molecule for our cartilage out of the raw materials we give it. So the food we eat is the spare parts, and we can get them at the dollar store or we can get them at the premium body parts store. It's up to you. Those of us who value incarnations and how difficult it is to choreograph everything to give us an opportunity in an incarnation on a transformative planet at a key point in history with a very key assignment of work to do here. We value that, so we learn to take care of this physical machine we are driving around. Because it's a long wait to get back here to try again. So if we listen to our physical bodies, they will tell us that it needs food. They will tell us that we're hungry. We will crave certain things which typically contain the nutrients we need to repair whatever organ or body part needs repaired. Less obvious are the emotional cravings of our physical machine, especially when we compare them to the emotional, mental, and spiritual yearnings of our essential self. The essential self basically has no physical yearnings. The primary physical yearning of the essential self is to accomplish what we came here to do. This is our mandate, our true will. our dharma, our true spiritual, divinely ordained purpose in this incarnation. That is what drives our essential self, our essence, as we call it. So physical yearnings are usually going to always be, the yearnings of the machine. We crave food, water, air, activity, exercise, sex. That's the machine saying, give me meat. Me barbarian. Me want meat. That's really the thing. The machine has come to identify with that overlay of the barbarian. And the machine learns, and the essence has no objection to the fact that wearing that barbarian label proudly gets us a larger serving of meat. Anywhere we go. Oh, here, have more. Works. Yeah. My essence doesn't care. It's like, did you get fed? Good. I didn't care what, as long as it was healthy. And all. The essence is, okay, so now that you've been fed, what are you doing about this work thing that you're supposed to be doing? That's what the essence cares about. Emotionally, though, the mental and emotional and spiritual intertwinings of the machine are very difficult to distinguish between the mental, emotional, and spiritual promptings that come from our essence. It's like two strands of yarn of exactly the same color and exactly the same fiber that have been intertwined and interwoven because the two cats got a hold of it and were fighting over it and playing it. And so you've got this mass of interwoven, intertangled stuff.
Sounds like what's in the middle of a hardball.
Yeah, except that inside the middle of a baseball, if you peel off that leather cover, that's very carefully wound and it's only one strand.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's two interwoven. And your job is to tell which does this belong to. The differences are very subtle sometimes. You have to feel it. There's a subtle variation in the diameter of that one yarn over the other, a very subtle variation in how smooth it is, and very slowly and carefully you have to untangle this mess of the two threads so you know which is which. The yearnings of the essence, those emotional messages, are the ones we want to pay attention to. The emotional yearnings of the physical machine, we mostly don't want to pay attention to.
So is that the lower and higher emotion centers?
You would ask a Gurdjieff question. Um, it's along those lines, but the higher centrum is it's like that's the interface point to your essential self.
Okay.
The lower emotional centrum is purely the emotions of the machine. But even above and beyond the higher emotional centrum that's associated with you in this incarnation, it's still a manifestation of this incarnation, as I understand it. And beyond that is your true, permanent, eternal, essential self. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay. So when we are, especially when we're confronted with something new and difficult and hard and challenging, the ego mind, which is the mind of the machine, oh no, I don't go there. I don't do hard, and I don't do uncomfortable. I do comfortable.
Really well.
Now that's what the ego mind is there. It's designed to maintain the status quo. Comfort, from the standpoint of proto-humans out there living in the wild, comfort meant safety. Comfort meant we're not being chased by the saber-toothed tigers today. Comfort meant that the tribe we just drove away from the water hole didn't wake up in the middle of the night with a huge obelisk in their midst that triggered them to learn how to make weapons and come and drive us out. So we haven't, no, that would be uncomfortable, right? So for us, we're here, we're comfortable, we got our food, we got our water hole, we got that, that's it. We're not doing this uncomfortable thing. Climb the mountain, isn't that going to be hard? Man, there's a mountain's way up there. And yeah, it's hard running uphill and climbing. And then the air gets thin and it gets cold. And why? Because it's there. I've done this down here, right? So what's over there? There's that urge that has always driven humanity forward. There's no good reason to go climb those ice-covered mountains from the standpoint of the machine that seeks comfort. No, the reasons to go climb those ice-covered mountains came from outside the physical organism. It comes from that eternal part of us that's trying to push us in a direction of transformation. And by transformation, I'm referring to all the processes that we call alchemy, which make up the means of converting that portion of our physical self that hosts something higher and pushing that a little further, and at the same time, this is key, and not all places you find the work have this key. You can use the work being done on the physical body to transform the essential self.
Say that again, please.
You can use the work being done with the physical body to transform the essential self. Ultimately, the evolution and transformation of the essential self is the objective, the first big objective. There's more big objectives after that. But until you get that one, the others are a moot point. So, understanding this difference between the human biological machine and our essential self is the focus of EJ's book, called The Human Biological Machine as a Transformational Apparatus. What did I want to say next? All right, this is what I want to say next. So I'm in chapter 4, which is called The Human Biological Machine as a Transformational Apparatus. We will consider several important ideas in this introduction to the work, and as we hear these ideas, we must remember that we do not understand them completely, and that, although we might clarify a point or two, we can never completely understand them just by talking about them or thinking about them. In our beginning work, we will turn our first attention toward the body, with its mental, emotional, and motor apparatuses, which, when taken as a whole, is called in this system the human biological machine. So I want to read that paragraph. That's where he defines what he means by the human biological machine. The mental, emotional, and motor responses of the physical organism. Although it has countless inner subjective states, which may give the impression of an unapproachable complexity, the human biological machine has only two definite objective states which are of any real interest to us in the transformational sense. The machine is either in the waking state or the sleeping state. In the ordinary course of life, apart from momentary accidental awakenings, the machine is asleep. And during this sleeping state, it exercises its own will upon the situation, and at the same time, its higher transformational functions are not activated. The majority of work communities, I'm skipping a little bit, the majority of work communities are founded on the basis that it is the essential self which is asleep and which must be aroused from sleep. Because they remain unaware of the essential self's identification with the sleep of the machine and the machine's potential as a transformational apparatus only when in the waking state, they have no hope of achieving any authentic transformation. Few people know this important secret, yet even knowing this secret does not guarantee that they know everything necessary for the transmission of these ideas. They may not know how to communicate the ideas to somebody else, and in any case, they may only know the ideas mentally, never having actually applied them in a practical way to themselves. This is the same principle that I've mentioned a number of times in the past, that you can't learn to ride a bicycle by reading about it in books. You have to get on and try to ride and fall off and skin a few elbows and knees if you didn't actually break a bone in the process. And at some point, the mind's control of the body and the feedback of the body to the mind clicked. And all of a sudden, you're riding a bicycle without falling off. But if you had to articulate how you did that, what made that click, you can't. Right? It's not possible. Like everybody says, you're leaning and you're pedaling and you're steering and trying to brake, and it's all confusing. And if your conscious mind has to do all of that all at once, you never learn to ride a bicycle.
Mm.
It's that interplay between the body and the mind, and you're developing the skills and a memory that's distributed. We call it muscle memory. It could be 20 years since you last rode a bicycle, but if somebody brought one up and said, hey, come out and ride the bike, you'd go out and get on and you'd ride because you got it. Right? There was a transformation in your awareness and your abilities that happens when you learn to ride the bicycle. If you never undertake the process of attempting to decipher the difference between the signals you get from the biological machine and the signals you get from your essential self, you will almost always be at the beck and call of the machine. And the machine will never achieve the waking state on its own, because the machine interprets change as a threat. Remember? And there's some truth to that from the standpoint of the machine. Historically and biologically, that whole biological imperative to survive. Every creature that we've investigated has it. You put it in a threatening situation and it'll fight. Everyone will. Even, in my opinion, if you put them in the right situation, even the most enlightened Zen monk who wishes no harm on anybody, when you start to put them in a truly threatening situation where they're about to be killed, the biological machine will take over and they will fight. We have that biological will to survive, and anything the machine interprets as uncomfortable is a potential threat. What those in the work who make actual progress in the work have come to realize is that when you find the work and you find a teacher who's gone this way before and knows the paths and knows the gateways, and you realize this is someone who can help move me through my transition into something higher, into being a higher performance human, and I can do my part to push humanity forward. When you find that, the people in the work realize that the discomfort isn't a threat. We learn to welcome it. You come in here and some weeks the radiations are hotter than others. Some are cooler. Sometimes I'm talking to your mind. Other times I'm talking to your higher centrums, trying to bring through the combination to lift people to that next stage. And you always can tell when you found somebody like that when we laugh at you because you're going through the radiation and you're going through transformation. And we'll do things like, oh, you're starting to have reverberations from transformation? Oh, here, let me make that just a little bit stronger for you. It'll go faster, trust me. Oh, and start doing some of those exercises that I tell you to do once a week. Now start doing them every day or twice a day. And when you come back screaming and ranting and raving, I'll say, oh, good, it's working. So if your teacher, when you go to your teacher with those kind of complaints, this, and they say, oh, you poor thing, just go ground it out. Just stop doing everything and rest until you're back to being comfortable. Then you know you've got a BS teacher. Your teacher should be pushing you into the fire, not pulling you out. There is benefit to be gained from understanding this process intellectually. One of my intents in having you read EJ's book is so when these symptoms start happening to you, that you don't freak out and run away screaming. That you go, oh. And I may have to remind you, remember on page 18 it said, and you go, oh, so what do I do about this? And I say, learn to enjoy it. This is your transformation. You only go through each transformational level once. You won't come back here to this state again. So enjoy it. It's like a around the country road trip, right? You're going to take a summer and do a road trip, hit every state in the country, see every state capital, you know, every national park that's on your way. You're going to stop. Let's say you've got 6 months to go do this. You've been planning it for years. And don't rush if you're doing that. Enjoy it. You get to southern Utah and you're looking at Bryce Canyon National Park and it's 125 degrees out and you're sweating profusely, but you're in all this grandeur and the rattlesnakes are going by. Just enjoy it. Wow. Here I am in this glorious place, burning up, sweating profusely, and I'm choosing to put myself here. Enjoy it, because you won't be coming back to that place, that time, ever again. Enjoy it. And I'm not just saying that tongue-in-cheek to, oh, man, just enjoy it. No, revel in it. Know that 90 or 95% of the masses out there will never even start an esoteric path. And of those that do, probably 95% won't ever make it through these transformational levels. So yeah, I want you to enjoy it and learn from it. Because someday, you might be the one sitting here. And who knows, it might be in this very chair, in this very room, and it could be you doing the Toltec discussions with whatever your shamanic names turns out to be. And it could be you laughing at everybody who's struggling. But laughing joyfully. not in a way of ridicule, but it's in great joy that the transformation is happening and that it's working, and we know where you're going, and we know what will happen when you get to the other side. So yes, it's laughter, but it's laughter and joy. So what we are doing here in this Toltec work, this is not ordinary, right? Ordinary, comfortable methods will get you ordinary, comfortable results. And ordinary, comfortable results don't include transformation into something higher. If you are seeking something higher for yourself and for humanity, and you've committed to that path, to that work, then you have to seek non-ordinary methods. And by definition, those non-ordinary methods are not comfortable. You can't swim across the ocean and keep one foot on shore. And as soon as you take that last foot offshore and start out, you're swimming with the sharks and all the other sea creatures that might want to eat you. So swim well, and learning how to fight the sharks isn't a bad idea too. In the Toltec work, we have known for several tens of thousands of years on this planet that the way to accomplish this kind of transformation is we have to upgrade our consciousness. Upgrading our own personal consciousness is a process that we call transcendence in the Toltec lineage. You will hear the term liberation, you will hear the term enlightenment, which I disagree I don't actually agree that the term enlightenment means the same as transcendence. But it's a term you will hear. They're doing their best to describe this alchemical transformation from being an ordinary human to a human who has deliberately and consciously activated the connections to their higher mind and allowed those connections to bring higher knowledge through into this world using your biological machine as the user interface, if you will, between the higher planes and the physical world. So, once you and you and you and you and you have all transformed your personal consciousness, the Toltec work then gets all of us into a group, and we combine our consciousness fields in a way that amplifies our effect on the collective consciousness of humanity. Ultimately, this will permit us to transform not just ourselves, not just our group, but the reality itself. This is a hologram. The Toltec lineage is the only one I'm aware of that has the formula for how to use our energy fields in that particular way to transform the hologram. There may be other individual shaman here and there who've known part of it, but this is one of the things the Toltec lineage holds, is that formula. Quantum physics in action, I like to think of it. Let's take a small break and ask who's online.
Let's see. We have got Dennis on.
Dennis. Okay.
We have got Muad'Dib,
Muad'Dib.
Maria,
Maria.
and Patricia.
Patricia. Mwah. No melody tonight.
She's going through stuff.
What's that?
Is that she's in the middle of stuff?
Yeah. No William. The use of group higher consciousness in this particular way is unique to the Toltecs, again, so far as I know. Could there be a small sect of some little group of monks in the Himalayas or the Andes or the Australian outback who do something similar? I don't know, maybe. But as far as endeavoring to help the world as a whole and putting out there for all to see who we are and what we do, the only ones that I know of who do this are the Toltecs. We have this formula. We've held it for tens of thousands of years, if not longer. And what I like about this book by E.J. Gold is that it really breaks down and clarifies this distinction between our essential self and the human biological machine. And he gets in here, he's got exercises, he's got, this is so elegant, the way he has presented all this. And it's really important, I can't emphasize this enough, that understanding the difference between the biological machine and the essential self that little ability that has to be learned by experience is key. You will not transform without it. You have to know that. When you are up against your shadow self and you are learning that the dark side of the universe is important, that we each have a shadow self where all those things that we've allowed society to program into us that are bad about ourselves. Oh, You shouldn't have long hair and a beard. You should be clean shaven and short hair. Oh, you shouldn't do this, you should do that. You shouldn't do that, you should do this. All our guilt, all our failures, all those emotions get stuffed into a construct that is called in the work the shadow self, the watcher at the threshold. And you have to confront that. And it's big and it's scary and it's emotionally challenging. It'll happen one day in a dream or a vision, and that vision could be, or dream could be so real that it's as real as sitting in this room. And your shadow self will be big, bad, and scary, probably. It may look exactly like you, but be dressed differently. Luke Skywalker going into the cave that Yoda sends him into, meeting the Darth Vader-like character. That's the classic one from modern cinema. And you have to make friends with your shadow self. You have to absorb your shadow self into you, because it's part of you. You have to welcome him home, him or her, excuse me. Like the prodigal son returning is welcomed home after all his failures, is welcomed home by the Father. That's how you have to welcome your shadow self back. It's part of you, and you can't leave it behind and do the higher work. And if anyone ever tells you otherwise, they don't have the formula. They don't have a legitimate connection to the transformation that you are seeking. EJ goes into the detail and describes a state that he calls the chronic. I think of it, using my physics background, as the barrier, the membrane between the sleeping state and the waking state. And that barrier is like a shock wave, very much like the shock wave generated when an airplane is trying to break the speed of sound. As we approach the waking state, we start to run into this barrier that he calls the chronic. And the emotions of the machine will be triggered. Remember, this is a survival mechanism for the machine. Anger, hatred, rationalizing, a driving need to always be right, to prove that everyone else in the room is wrong. Not that I would ever do that. Unless Bruto's watching. Bruto is Coyote's brother. He and I shared a chronic moment at a seminar once. And we were basically each screaming at the other, "You're up against your chronic and you don't even know." And we were both saying, and we both were. And then we figure it out, we go, oh. So the key to transitioning successfully into the waking state is to learn what's coming from the machine and what's coming from the essence. And in the moment, be able to just relax and breathe into it and don't respond to the emotions of the machine. The next day, it doesn't work. You've calmed down, things have changed, you're in a different state, and it's like, oh yeah, I was up against my chronic, and so, but you're not in a waking state. Yeah, you didn't ride that wave into the waking state. That's why when we do major classes, I ask you, do your reports right away. Give that response immediately while you're still in that state. You will have insights that you can't get any other time. You know, it's like you never get a second chance for a first impression. The second time around, it's a second impression. It's not the first impression. There's no such thing as retroactive virginity.
Can we have a fan back on?
Let's go ahead and turn the fan back on low.
Thank you.
And hopefully people out there in internet land will hear. It takes practice, what I'm describing. Nobody, and I mean nobody, ever gets it right the first time they go up against a chronic, just transition into the waking state and go, oh, isn't this wonderful? And Nietzsche talks about that. The machine fights like the dickens to stay in the sleeping state and not go to the waking state. But once it's in the waking state, the machine will fight like the dickens to stay in the waking state and not want to go back to the sleeping state. It's an example of the physics principle of inertia. But nobody gets it right the first time. It takes several times, maybe even many times, to learn to just, as the situations develop and you're up against a chronic, just smile and breathe and go with it. And not worry about whatever the emotions of the machine are telling you to do. And then when you do it, you go, oh, that's what he was trying to describe. It's like riding the bicycle. Get on, you're clicking as you're riding, and you come back and your parents are there and they're smiling, they're kind of like, yeah, he got it. She's got it. Now you know how to ride a bike. Now you know how to ride those waves through the chronic into the waking state. And then the next trick becomes learning to do it at will. Don't wait for the world to randomly create a situation. You go there whenever it's needed. Just get to that waking state. When he gets into chapter 5, and I'm not going to go through this whole book chapter by chapter telling you what he says. You can all read. I'm putting this into context of the work, because the only thing that matters here is the work. In the work, I'll come back to that, remind me. The work. In the work. So in chapter 5, he starts talking about the difference between the work and modern psychology. I think that's a subtle but important point. Modern psychology is all about behavior, and specifically behavior to keep the rest of the world feeling comfortable. The work is about inner transformation. And quite probably, you won't feel comfortable and nobody else around you will either. But that's what you have to do if you're going to do this work. And I'll be the first in line, actually I'm probably second because Coyote already said this once upon a time, is this work is not for everybody. Some people can handle it and some people can't. Some people it's just not your path. But if it is your path. So the work all comes from the same place. There's only one source. There's only one higher plane, inner plane school. And depending on where on the planet you end up, the work can look very different. If you're in the Australian outback, it looks one way. When you're in the Himalayan mountains, it looks a different way. When you're on the steeps of northern Eurasia, herding reindeer, the work looks still another way. When you're on North America, it looks a lot of different ways. It can look like a New York Jewish art dealer merchant who's a salesman trying to sell you stuff. And he gives away a lot more than he tries to sell. It looked like a big, dark, scary, chubby El Salvadorian with a long black coat and a black hat who says he's a Toltec, but he teaches yoga and magic as well. But it's all the same work. It can look like a long-haired, bearded physicist, martial artist, who threatens to hit you with a stick if you don't do your reading. And throws crystals at you.
Uh-oh.
If you go down to Mexico, the Toltec work might look like the classic quintessential Native American medicine man. But it's all the same work. And on this planet, at this point in time, the main part of the work is the transformation of humanity. Individuals and groups and the human race as a whole. This planet is designed and built as a transformational apparatus. This planet is an alchemical furnace designed to create large numbers of transformed sentient beings. Because the formula of work we have on this planet has the potential to transform your essence faster than other methods that have been tried other places throughout the various galaxies in our universe. One of many reasons why Earth is a unique place in the universe at a unique time in its history. As we orbit our galaxy, our solar system orbits our galaxy, there's a perpendicular to the plane of the galaxy, there's a toroidal-shaped ring of high-energy photons that we call the photon belt. And right now, our solar system is transitioning through that. A process that takes about 2,000 years. And then when we go to the other side of the galaxy, it happens again. So we've just moved into that. We're at the beginning of that 2,000 year period. We're in the photon belt. The full orbit around the galaxy one time takes 26,000 years. So if you divide that 26,000 years into two 13,000 year periods, we have 2,000 years of photon belt and great transformational energies, and that's really going through the cauldron. And then we have 11,000 years of kind of a settling down and adjustment and learning to work at that new energetic level. And then we get to the other side of the galaxy and we do it again. And we do it again. And we do it again, over and over again. And each time the intent is we take things up a notch. Like that famous TV chef. Kick it up a notch. You know, cook that thing. Let's throw more spice in. Everything's up there. So that's what we're doing here on this planet. Okay. Remember that. You came here through a very difficult, very complex application process. It's easier to get into Harvard even if you don't have rich parents to bribe your way in than it is to get onto Earth. There's a waiting list here. Not everybody gets to come. And they want to be here now. Please let me in during this 2,000 years. I'll get more done in 1 or 2 lifetimes during that 2,000 years than I will the whole rest of the time. Right? That's the whining, the begging, the pleading. It's like, well, let's see, the last 5 times you were sent down, you totally failed on all your missions. You never accomplished your true will once in any incarnation, so you're at the back of the line, dude. Right? That's going on right now. Oh, the last incarnation you did, all you did was deliberately try to keep other people from accomplishing their true will. And you even understood the concept. So no, end of the line for you. No soup for you.
I was just like, I don't remember what it was.
I was waiting for that.
No soup for you.
You want me
No.
to get that?
Oh, I need to know.
No alchemical cauldron on earth for you. Thank you, Gloria. You're here. Don't waste your incarnation. Do the work. And I can tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know, you can't explain. But you feel it. You felt it your entire life, this incarnation, that there's something wrong with this world.
This one thing?
What it is, you don't know. But it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad until you figure it out. And it's that feeling that every incarnation will drive you to the work until you finish your transformations. There's a series that we go through. And when you get to that point and you've finished your transformations, there are other opportunities available, like creating universes, creating worlds. Creation isn't done, it's barely begun. the vastness of space that we see, it's just one example of many universes. That whole creation isn't done. It's barely begun. We are being trained to do that job, to help finish creation, to animate creation. I wish it was as easy as giving you a red pill or a blue pill for you to understand all this. But unlike the movie The Matrix that I've been quoting, here you have to do that transformation yourself. No Morpheus to hand you a pill. There is, if you accept the challenge, a teacher who will show you the door. And if they're nice, they'll even warn you about some of the dangers that can happen when you go through. All the creatures that will try to eat you. And if you're really, really nice, he may even show up in the dreaming and protect you from some of those creatures. But the odds of finding a teacher that nice, pretty small. Your teacher can't make you want to do this work. All we can do is tell you that the rewards of doing it are far greater than anything else in the mundane Buddha world. And I will use every means available to me, both fair and unfair, to facilitate your transformation process.
And obviously said
Define
unfair.
Define fair.
And define unfair. Response.
So we're going up. Our Toltec school, we're up spiral right now. This is a good time to make good progress. It would be a bad time to jump off the boat. The work is going forward, and the time is now. Do you have any questions?
Okay, say, I get, for example, say I get triggered by something that's happening right in front of me. And, my biological machine kicks in and I realize that my biological machine is feeling threatened.
Mhm.
So, you just sit with that threat and try to calm yourself down. I mean,
No.
how do you contact as that's happening?
As let's assume it's not truly a life-threatening situation.
Okay.
My response to somebody who's truly trying to kill me is going to be very different than
Right.
I'm just really annoyed because somebody's not letting me speak or somebody's ignoring what I said.
Okay.
Okay. Or somebody just pushed one of my traditional hot buttons and called me a name. Oh, you're just a geeky math nerd. Yes, and what's your point? Or was a time when calling me a geeky math nerd that I was afraid of girls would freak me out. I'm like, well, yeah, of course I'm a geeky math nerd. What's your point? I got over that. But in the moment, as you train and you go through these triggering incidents over and over and more repeatedly, and you start to recognize it, you just do nothing. You just let it pass over you and through you.
Because you named it, right?
Yeah. It's like the Benny Gesserit Litany Against Fear that you've heard me say from the Dune instruction manual on shamanism. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death which brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when the fear has gone past, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. And so people being trained in that shamanic culture, they were taught this over and over. Whenever you fear, just repeat that in your mind. Repeat it out loud until it becomes unnecessary to repeat.
Can you repeat the part about the little man and total obliteration?
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death which brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. Where the fear has gone past, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. So in that moment, you're being triggered. Don't ground out that energy. That's the energy wave you want to ride into the waking state. Just breathe and absorb. Breathe and absorb. And hold that vision. You're riding the wave into the waking state. And you'll know you're there because you're not in the sleeping state anymore. You've all felt the space shift. Right? That's a sign that you're getting into the waking state. Feel that right now?
Mm-hmm.
Feel that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's the threshold.
Okay.
Learn to identify
That's fresh.
that.
Okay.
And whether somebody's screaming at you and you want to rage back, when you start to identify this state of energy, breathe and just ride.
Thank you.
Questions?
I was just gonna comment, the reason I asked you to repeat that one part is, it seems like that if there was gonna be a psychological explanation, that was kind of the trigger point where the little mind,
A little death.
the little death is the one that's like freaking out, going, oh my gosh, this just happened, this is the end of the world, blah blah blah, and it's the opportunity right at that moment to separate and to be the silent witness
Yes.
and to see what's happening and choose not to respond or react.
Right.
Because and then in that moment you're split, so you are the essence watching the ego.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is the trigger to waking up. I mean,
That's one. That's one way to use this.
mhm.
And he goes through all of that in here. So, using my naturopathic doctor, even though I'm retired, author's analogy of being some food being nutrient dense. This is a very nutrient dense book. All 4 of these books I'm having you read are nutrient dense, very, very much so. Don't rush through the book. Oh, I got to get this done for the sake of checking the box, because you'll miss opportunities. And missed opportunity is a missed opportunity. You don't get it again. So read this book. How many chapters are there here? 29? 23? 23 chapters. If you did a chapter a day, that's just over 3 weeks. That might be too fast. Yeah, you can race through it in half a dozen evenings, and you won't remember it. And you won't use the book then as a transformational tool. The goal is this book can transform the same way that the book is teaching you to use your body to help transform. So this is a transformational process. Don't rush. Enjoy it. If the book triggers you, good. Breathe and observe and go with it. Ride that wave. This is a crucial skill to distinguish between the wants and the desires and the addictions and the preferences of the biological machine versus the true desire of the true will of the essence, to accomplish the true will, that desire of the essence. That's a crucial, crucial, crucial distinction and ability to be developed. Learning that distinction and gaining some mastery over this skill is the fastest way to get to the waking state and one of the fastest ways to assist in your transformation. Unless you want to be a student the rest of your life. I've got to get rid of you guys. You guys got to make some progress here. Make some progress and claim what is yours. And what is yours is your true will. Because you each have something unique that you alone came here to do, and that nobody else can do exactly the same way you would do it. Any other questions online? Any comments, complaints?
Oh, no complaint.
Oh, I have a form that they can fill out and send in.
Complete form.
Yeah.
It's probably
Everybody send those to him.
It's probably gonna be like a micrometer. But look,
Here's the complaint form. Oh, I dropped it. Oh. But yeah, write out your complaints on this form, and I'll be sure and listen. While I'm laughing at you struggling through your transformations. Laughing with joy. But laughing.
I realize that when I get triggered, that when I hit the threshold is where it really works me up. That's where I've been most of my life, is something should happen.
Right.
Now,
And
yeah.
you back away.
Yeah,
And the backing away is the wrong answer.
yeah.
If you want to get to the other side, backing
Right.
away is the wrong answer. And if you want to keep coming up to the threshold and being scared and backing away and do that over and over and over the rest of your life, you can do that, and you will never get to the other side, and your odds of accomplishing your true purpose go way down to 0. No other online comments?
Patricia said that this was an awesome discussion.
Oh, good. I'm glad it was useful.
And Muad'Dib says, I find it funny that before he was telling us to hurry up and read the books, now it's slow down and take your time.
Well, that was like a year and a half ago, right?
Some of you have had this on your reading list for almost 2 years.
Right.
So slow down and enjoy the process only applies if you've actually started the process. And you're not dragging the process out,
3 weeks versus a year and a half.
let's say a month versus a year and a half. Somewhere in between,
Why run?
it's your true will you're trying to get ready for, not me.
I'm just kidding.
I'm doing mine. Mine is to sit here and flog you and laugh. And the more you don't engage, the more I laugh and the more I flog you. It's a tough job. Somebody had to be the one to flog all of you who's not
You
doing
must
your
have
will.
been a pirate, dude.
Well, the pirates weren't the only ones who knew about flogging. My ancestors invented heads on pikes.
Well, I've heard that more than once.
Yeah, I know. I have more than one ancestor who invented it too. No, I am a barbarian. I got that overlay going. I'm there. Okay, we're going to stop here unless there are more comments and questions. And next week we're going to move into something else.
And now for something completely
Different. Yes. Okay, let's
Good
go
discussion.
offline.
Good discussion.
Thank you. We all thank you. My whole pantheon. All right, thank you.
It's getting crowded in here.
I know. What did I get myself into when I saw you walking on the street? Oh. Too late to back out now, right?
It's too late to back out.
This is not a time, good time to jump off the boat.